Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. This is Own a Machine, Not a Job. So, as we get started, I want you to think back to when you started your business. What did you hope it would become? How did you envision your life was going to change if your business were successful? If only you could earn that dollar figure that you sought out to achieve upon starting your business. What kind of lifestyle was that figure intended to give you? I want you to reflect on that dream throughout today's presentation. Welcome, everyone. I'm Sarah Justin with Rev CFO Advisors. Rev is French for dream because I'm on a mission to help business owners make their financial dreams a reality. And I'm equipped to do it because I myself had a dream as a business owner, which I made a reality by building and selling my own business. And I used my skills as a CPA to build a financial strategy for success. And today I want to share that strategy with you all. So thank you. I'm very grateful you took the time to join me. So as an accountant, I can look at a business and spot the underlying reasons why a business is not profitable or has poor cash flow. And more importantly, I know how to fix it. I know how to make a business grow and become more profitable. So I'm on a mission to help as many business owners as I can have a growing and more profitable business. So today's agenda, here's where we're going. We'll start out by talking about why most businesses fail. And then we'll go into the difference between a business that's a machine versus one that's a job that you happen to own. I'll introduce the three sources of money for every business and how you can use these sources to get back control of both time and money from your business. We'll talk about why a lot of business owners struggle to make less than 100,000 a year in income. And finally, we'll delve into the 16 drivers that drive revenue, profit, and cash flow in every business that every business owner should be aware of and watching. So this workshop will last about 45 minutes, and I'll be sure to reserve 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat, either as we're talking, and if I don't get to them during the presentation, I will definitely have time at the end to address the questions. And you'll want to look for an email as well after this webinar, which will have my contact information and some follow-ups that I'll be discussing during the presentation. And this is also being recorded. So if you'd like a replay, I can send that to you after the presentation. So thanks again for joining me, and let's jump in. So first, I want to talk about why most businesses fail. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, 20% of businesses fail within the first year, 20%. 35% fail by the second year. And by the fifth year in business, 50% of businesses fail. 50%. Think about it. That's one in every two businesses that are gone by their fifth birthday. And along with that business, that's all the hopes and dreams of the owner that are gone. That's all the time, energy, money gone. If you've been in business over 5 years, think about giving all that up the first 5 years of your business and losing that. That's all the owner is left with, is just perhaps a ton of debt or the realization that they've got to go back and get a job. And so what's the reason why so many of these businesses fail? Well, it's because they lacked money. Every business would still be in business today if it was able to have access to money, the access it needs. Money literally solves every problem in business. If you've got a marketing problem, money allows you to do more marketing and hire marketing professionals. Let's say you have a management problem. If you have sufficient money, it allows you to hire better managers or to hire people to manage in your place so that you have more time. If you're in a down market, money will allow you to weather the storm. And if you've got a seasonal business, sufficient funds will enable you to make it to the next season. Maybe you've got a sales problem. Well, money will allow you to improve your product or service to generate more sales, or perhaps hire more or better salespeople. The list is endless. The point is, money solves every problem in business. Now, money can come from three sources when we talk about funding your business. First, it can come from debt, the owner's investment, or from the business itself. Now, debt looks like this. It could be credit cards, It could be in the form of a bank loan. It could also be in the form of vendors. Most businesses, you buy from your vendors but pay later. They're extending you a form of credit or debt. Now, the second source is the owner's investment. That's your personal savings as the business owner, money that you personally put into the business. And it also could be selling stock. So giving away a piece of your interest to someone else for an infusion of additional funds. And the third source is money that is generated by the business itself, money that the business creates. And this is the best way to make money. It's simply revenue less the operating expenses, less taxes, less debt payment, less customers who haven't yet paid you, less payments that you make to your vendor. In other words, it's all the cash that comes in, less all the cash that goes out. So whatever is left over, that's what we're looking for. That's the money that's generated from your business. So to beat that survival rate, to last longer than those 50% of businesses that go out of business by their fifth birthday, you've got to get good at making money. And of the three ways to make money, there's a clear winner. You've got to get good at making money from the business itself. Why is that? Well, some debt is good, right? If you use debt to buy something, going to produce a return on investment, yeah, that's good debt you can use. But you need a plan for paying it back, and it's got to generate a return. It's got to produce more cash than it's using to buy. But relying on debt, it's not sustainable. And a business that relies on debt entirely to survive will eventually go out of business. And its owner is likely still going to be on the hook to pay that debt off. Also, a business that can't support itself and has to rely on outside debt or investment from the owner or equity has either one or two things going on. The first thing is there's a chance, perhaps, that there's a chance of making a lot of money down the road. So you see this in industries like pharmaceutical, tech businesses, where it requires a significant investment in research and development to develop the product in the first place. But the likely reward and payoff is very high. So investors are interested in buying equity in those businesses, or lenders are interested in providing debt because there's that promise of a high reward eventually. Now, the second thing that might be going on if you're relying on debt or equity is that the business itself is simply not working and it can't survive on its own. Most of those businesses that go out of business, they fail because they're in the second category. So the bottom line is your business must get good at making money. So how do you do that? Well, the answer lies in turning your business into what I call a money-making machine. So what is that machine? What do I mean by money-making machine? Well, it's doing what a machine is supposed to do, which is make money. If the machine isn't doing what it's supposed to do, making money, then like all machines that aren't functioning, you need to determine the root cause and then fix it. So also that your machine is running at peak performance and doing what it's supposed to do, make money. So let's use the example of a washing machine. Its purpose is to wash clothes, right? It's made up of multiple parts. And if it fails at doing what it's supposed to do, which is wash clothes, there's got to be a reason why. If you find that reason and you fix it, then your machine will get back to doing what it's supposed to do, washing clothes. In other words, if the machine isn't washing clothes, there's always a reason why. So you simply find the reason and you fix it. But do this only if you want your machine to do what it's supposed to do, wash clothes. It's the exact same thing with a business. Your business should be thought of as a machine. Its purpose is to make money, and it's made up of multiple parts. If it fails at doing what it's supposed to do, making money, there's got to be a reason why. So your job as the owner is to find that reason and fix it so that you can go back to making money. In other words, if the machine is broken, if it's not making enough money or as much as you'd like, there's always a reason why. Find that reason, diagnose it, and fix it. But only if you want your machine to do what it's supposed to do. So If you can get your business to make money or to make more money, you can use that money. You can use it to hire more or better people, do more or better marketing, improve the quality or of your products or your services. You can hire experts to help you grow your business. You can hire better management. You can expand locations. You can buy more equipment, vehicles, inventory, supplies. You can pay down debt. And most importantly, you can take some time off because you can afford to pay someone to take your place. Or you could take some of that money out for yourself. So the good news is that, like a washing machine, every business is made up of the same part. And each part has a hand in helping the machine do what it's supposed to do, which is make money. So to get your business to make money or more money, you've got to get familiar with the parts of the business so that you can spot those parts that aren't working properly and do something about it. So we're going to talk more about those parts of the business that you need to be paying attention to. But first, let's look at what happens if your machine isn't functioning properly, or perhaps it's not functioning at all. If money isn't being generated from the machine, you you don't pour your own money into it, or you can't take on more debt to fund it. So those first two sources of money for your business that we talked about, then you'll have a business that at worst will go out of business. And at best, it'll be constantly struggling to grow. Either way, you, the machine's owner, will be consistently stressed out, overworked, and underpaid. At the same time, most owners are afraid of their business failing for two reasons. The first reason is that, well, they depend on that machine working. They depend on the business working because their business has to support their families. Their employees and their families depend on the business working. And they have so much time, energy, and money invested in the business that they simply cannot let it fail. They're afraid for it to fail. Now, the second reason most owners are afraid of their business failing is because they also can't go back to a job. They can't go back to the career that they left. Many of them are unemployable in the sense that they've pivoted their skill sets and they're doing something entirely different perhaps than what they previously did. Or they don't want to work for someone else again. Or they've tasted that freedom of controlling their own schedule and the own cadence of their life, but they don't want to lose that. So ironically, most business owners still end up owning a job, but they don't even realize it. So what's the difference between owning a machine versus owning a job? Well, most business owners own a job that's very stressful, low paying, and high demanding. But they often don't realize this until after they've started their business. Remember those dreams that I told you about? I asked you to reflect on at the beginning of this discussion. Um, Most people don't envision that stressful, low paying, high demanding job. That's not what they intended. In fact, most business owners dreamed of having control of their lives, which is the opposite of a job. They want control of their time. They want control of how much they make. But ironically, because most businesses struggle to do what the business is supposed to do, make money, the owner finds themselves losing that control, the control that they wanted in the first place, the thing that launched their dream in the first place. They've got to work more in the business because they can't afford not to. They work for less perhaps because their effective hourly rate goes down. They're putting in far more time but earning less for that time. And at the same time, most business owners who started a business because they wanted control started it because they were skilled at their craft. They knew how to do something and they were tired of doing it on behalf of someone else. So an HVAC tech starts a HVAC business. A dentist starts their own dental practice. A marketing expert starts their very own marketing firm. Or a chef starts their own restaurant or catering business. Because of this, the business owner inadvertently starts a business that's more like a job that they own. But unlike a job, they don't have that steady paycheck that they previously expected. and unlike a job, there's no one to guide the owner. They don't have a boss, which is perhaps why they got into business in the first place, but at the same time, they don't have anyone to make those big decisions for them and to drive them. So in the absence of a steady paycheck and guidance, the owner falls back on what they know how to do. They rely on their skills. They get to work as the HVAC tech, spending their time providing HVAC repair services. The dentist spends their time with their patients as a dentist. The marketing expert spends their time on the marketing projects. The chef spends their time in the kitchen. Meanwhile, all the other functions of the machine are struggling. Functions like getting clients, making sales, ensuring pricing is optimized, knowing what assets to buy, knowing when to expand, knowing if marketing is producing a return for them, understanding the numbers, and hiring, firing, managing employees. All these things fall by the wayside if the business owner is stuck doing the job that they know how to do, and on and on and on. And so the business struggles. And the business struggles because the owner is wearing all of the hats. And the business is struggling because the owner ends up having to do all the things that they don't necessarily like to do, and they may not necessarily be good at or have the expertise to do either. In essence, the business struggles because the business is run like a job and not a machine, especially not like a money-making machine. And eventually, even the owner's craft begins to suffer because they're overwhelmed and stressed. And they find they've bought themselves a very stressful, very expensive, and very low-paying job. In fact, 86.3% of all business owners make less than 100,000 a year in income. If you're making less than 100,000, and when you think about how much as a business owner you have to work, then you're making way too little and taking on way too much risk and spending way too much time for that salary. And most business owners are making even less than that. And these business owners find that they're struggling with having the worst of both worlds. They have a job without the steady paycheck. They have the business without the control they really want. And so what is the solution? Well, the solution is to own a machine and not a job. The solution is to turn your job into a machine. Specifically, you need to turn your job into a money-making machine. And like all machines that we talked about, your money-making machine is made up of multiple parts. If your machine fails at doing what it's supposed to do, then one or more of the parts is not operating at peak performance. So your job as the owner of the machine is to ensure that each part of the machine is running at peak performance. In just a few moments, I'm going to reveal the 16 parts of every business that you need to ensure are running at peak performance to get your machine working. But first, I keep saying the term money-making machine. So let's get crystal clear on what we're talking about. Like we discussed, all machines have a purpose, and your business's purpose is to make money. To put it simply, you want a business that makes money so you can do three things. One, perhaps take out money for personal use the money to grow your business, or three, use it to increase the value of your business so it can be sold one day for top dollar. Okay, so if you want to take money out for personal use, other than control of your time, making money is what most business owners really want and desire from their business. And you need a machine that allows you to take out as much as you want and need. You can use that money to fund a better lifestyle, go on vacation, pay off your personal debt, send your kids to college, support the charities that you love, and on and on and on. Or you could use that money that your machine is generating to further grow your business. As we said before, money literally solves every problem in your business. It not only helps you stay in business, but it helps you grow your business. And if that is your dream for your business, to expand locations, to expand in size, to hire more, to do more, then having a money-making machine will enable you to do that. And lastly, a business that makes money increases its value. Most businesses are sold for a multiple of cash flow, usually between 2 and 4 times. So if your business creates, say, $100,000 every year on average, then it could be sold potentially for between 200,000 and 400,000. And for some business owners, that's the retirement plan, is to build, grow a business, and then sell it for a multiple of cash flow. So if you want to sell your business for top dollar, you must increase the amount of money it creates. So now let's talk about how you're going to turn your business, how you can turn your business into a machine. So there are 16 parts of your machine. As I mentioned earlier, each business is made up of parts. And your job as the owner of the machine that is your business is to ensure all those machine's parts are running at peak performance. Each part's job is to increase one of 3 areas. So all of these 16 parts fall under one of 3 areas. The first is revenue. So revenue is what you sell. Profit. That's what you sell less your expenses. And cash flow. That's what you keep at the end of the day. So increasing cash flow is more important than increasing profit. And increasing profit is more important than increasing revenue. Let me say that again. Increasing cash flow is more important than profit, and increasing profit is more important than revenue. Why is that? Well, when you think about Amazon, famously, Amazon went 6 years without turning a profit after its founding in 1994, because their strategy was growth over profits. This enabled them to dominate the e-commerce industry, but they had a plan. They had to have a plan for injecting cash in their business because they knew that for several years, they weren't going to be generating money from their business, cash flow. So they tapped into debt and owner investment. They issued equity and sold stock, those other 2 sources of cash flow we talked about, so they could continuously inject the cash to feed their business and grow their company until it turned a profit. So you can see that they focused on cash flow before profit, despite having negative profits for 6 years. That's why cash flow is more important than profit. And profit is more important than revenue. Many owners chase the revenue number, saying, if only my dollars were so big, and they neglect to look at whether or not they're actually making return that revenue, if they're growing their profitability. An example, let's say that last month you had revenue of 50,000. Let's minus expenses of 30,000, gives you a profit of 20,000. And from that 20,000, you then had to pay taxes of 4,000. You had debt repayments of 3,000. You as the owner took out another 6,000. And there was a customer who hadn't yet paid you to the tune of 12,000. So in the end, you actually had negative cash flow last month of 5,000. Now that cash has to come from somewhere. Either it comes from the business checking account, or it has to come from the owner putting it back in. But it has to come from somewhere. So your job is to get the revenue number as high as possible each month. More importantly, get profit as high as possible each month. And even more importantly, get cash flow as high as possible each month. So to improve revenue, profit, and cash flow, you've got to focus on what drives them. And it's not enough to simply wake up one day and say, that's it, I'm going to make more money, changing my tune, I'm going to turn on the machine. You have to know what drives your machine and how you can improve each part for optimal performance. Think of it this way. You've got your personal vehicle. It gets you from point A to point B sufficiently as you commute every day. However, you decide you want to optimize the driving performance. Maybe you want to compete on a racetrack with this vehicle. You don't just drive faster one day. You've got to modify the parts of the vehicle that'll make it faster, enable it to handle better. Maybe that's engine and power upgrades. Maybe that's buying high performance tires. Perhaps it's upgrading your suspension, improving your brake lines. Maybe you need lighter wheels so that you can get just a little bit faster, putting a spoiler on the back. There are many different modifications, some big, some small. And that's how I want you to think about these 16 parts of your business. These are the modifications you can focus on to get more cash from your business, to optimize your money making machine. Okay. So this is as we go through this list. You don't need to take notes or anything. There's actually a downloadable PDF with examples of these 16 parts of your business definitions, everything we're going to go over today. So that's at revcfoadvisors.com on the events page. And I'll also be sending out an email after this presentation where you can download it directly from there. So the 16 parts of your business, there 5 of them, they drive revenue. So that's leads, conversion rate, retention rate, purchase frequency rate, and average transaction value. And we'll get into the definitions of all of these. The parts that drive profit are going to be cost of goods, marketing expenses, payroll expenses, overhead expenses, and other income and expenses. And lastly, the 6 drivers, that parts that drive cash flow, that's your days sales outstanding, days inventory outstanding, sale or purchase of assets, days payable outstanding, the usage or pay down of debt, and owner's investment or distributions. Okay, so starting with leads, this is the number of ideal customers that have been made aware of you. Perhaps the number of customers that have clicked on a banner ad that you've launched on social media. Perhaps the number of customers that have gotten a cold call from your company or gotten a targeted marketing email. So the number of ideal customers that have been made aware of you. Conversion rate is the percentage of leads that become paying customers. Now, this is really important because a lot of folks spend a lot of money to generate more and more leads, but if you're not successfully converting those leads, then you're not increasing revenue, you're not driving revenue. I knew of a HVAC company that they had launched a marketing campaign at a local baseball stadium, and it was extraordinarily successful in generating leads to the point that their phone was ringing off the hook. But month over month, they were barely seeing an increase in revenue. Well, it turns out that their sales process wasn't optimized to increase their conversion rate. So the more and more leads they got, they weren't able to get back to those leads, follow up. Their salespeople weren't closing on those leads. And so they weren't converting that to revenue. So you need to focus on conversion rate to make sure those leads become paying customers. Now, retention rate, this is the percentage of customers who come back each year. And this is also an opportunity to increase revenue. Sometimes businesses get so focused on those new leads, those new customers, that they neglect the quality of their service or the repeat touch points that they have with potential customers to retain those customers and generate more revenue from their customers each year. And the purchase frequency rate. So this is the number of times a customer purchases in a year. So businesses that perhaps had annual touch points, again, the HVAC company, for example, you may have an annual touch point with your customers when it comes time for a repair or an install, but there may be opportunities to have a subscription-based service and maintenance agreement so that you have more touch points with that customer. They're smaller purchases, but more frequent. You're building trust, you're building that relationship, and you're increasing revenue. And average transaction value. So this is the average value of every purchase a customer makes. So perhaps you don't need more customers. You might want to focus on selling a higher value service or good to your customers so that you get them purchasing more from you, which is going to increase revenue. Now, let's talk about what drives your profits. So cost of goods is how much it costs you to provide the goods in each sales transaction. It's measured as a percentage of revenue. So if your cost of goods is, say, 60%, that means for every dollar of revenue you generate, 60 cents is the cost that it takes you to just fulfill that order, to provide that good or that service that generated that dollar. That leaves you 40 cents for everything else to cover all of your overhead costs. So cost of goods is measured as a percentage of revenue. Marketing expenses, that also impacts your profitability. So marketing expenses we also look at that as a percentage of revenue. Um, how much of your revenue dollars are generated by the marketing costs that you're incurring? And payroll expenses. So this is the total amount of payroll that's not already included in cost of goods. So if it costs a certain number of hours to create a product for sale, that goes in cost of goods. But we're talking about payroll expenses that are all things overhead, administrative roles, your sales and marketing team, your accountants, roles that are not directly related to providing the service or creating the goods. This impacts your profitability. And then all other overhead expenses. So these are operational expenses such as rent, insurance, office supplies, everything else that's considered overhead in your business and necessary. And lastly, other income and expenses. So this is all other non-operational income or expenses, such as that is not related to the actual nature of your business. So perhaps income from an insurance payout. Oftentimes we see benefits from credit card um, credits from your business credit card that may go into other income or expenses. So anything not related to the business, but it still affects your profitability. Okay, so that's the first 10 parts of your business. Next, we've got the last six all focus on cash flow itself. So this is cash moving in and out of your business. The first one is the days sales outstanding. So that's the number of days it takes for you to collect from your customers. So think of it, if you're not collecting, if it takes you 90 days for your customers to pay you, that's 90 days that you're floating that cost of goods, 90 days that you're incurring the costs to sell to your customer, but they are in essence taking a loan from you for 90 days. So the days sales outstanding is a number to watch to manage your cash flow in and out of your business. Days inventory outstanding. This is the number of days it takes for you to sell your inventory. So the longer that inventory sits in your warehouse or on your shelf, it's not cash. It costs you money to buy that inventory, but it has not yet been converted to a sale or converted to cash. So the number of days inventory outstanding, you can see it's cash that's sitting on your shelf that you have not yet brought back into your business in the form of money. Okay, sale or purchase of assets. So if you sell an asset like a truck or a piece of equipment, this is going to increase your cash flow. And if you buy a new truck or piece of equipment, that's of course going to decrease your cash flow. And days payable outstanding. So this is the number of days it takes for you to pay your supplier. So just like I mentioned, if your customers are taking 90 days to pay you, you're extending credit to them of 90 days. Your vendors are also, in essence, giving you a loan for a number of days until you pay them. So, what are the number of days that you have your payables outstanding? Okay. Now, using or paying down debt. So, if you use debt, that's actually going to increase your cash flow. You're borrowing from the bank or the lender, they're injecting money into your business. And when you pay down that loan or pay off that loan, that's decreasing cash flow. So if you are going to use debt, as I said, for something that only for something that has a return on investment, but if you are going to use it, you need to be timing your cash flow so that you are generating enough cash to pay down that loan as required by the loan agreement. And the last driver of cash flow is owner investment or draws. This is investing your own money, which of course, if you put your own money into the business, this is going to increase cash flow. Or if you bring in outside investors and give away a piece of your business, that'll increase cash flow. And taking out money from your business, taking distributions, that's going to decrease cash flow, which of course I prefer that you take money out because that is what this machine is designed to do. Ideally, there's enough excess cash in your business that you can take out what you want and need from your business to support your personal goals. So all 16 of the parts, every one affects your business. And again, if you want a list of these, I know we went through them pretty quickly. If you want a list with some concrete examples, you can download that at my website, and I'll also be sending it out via email after this presentation. So if you improve just one part, just as I was going through that, if you're a business owner, I'm sure one or two of these might have ticked off in your mind. I need to revisit that. Maybe that's an area for improvement. So if you improve just one part, you will see an improvement in your business. However, if you improve two or more parts, you'll see a dramatic improvement in your business. You'll really start to gain momentum. So imagine if you improve all 16 parts. Your business will become a money making machine beyond your imagination. And this is how you transform your business. So let's talk about the transformation of your business. In a nutshell, to have a growing and successful business, you must turn it into a money making machine. To have a business that doesn't fail, you've got to turn it into a money making machine. And to have a business that gives you back the control that you want of time and money, you must have a business that is a money making machine. Because the point of a business is to make money. That's why it exists. However, although making money is the point, it's not easy to do. If it were easy to do, then we wouldn't have 50% of businesses going under by their fifth birthday. It's not easy because most business owners are not necessarily numbers people. And money, cash flow, the 16 parts of your business, these are all numbers. And most business owners, they understand they need to know their numbers, but they're not exactly excited about poring over data or understanding the parts to determine which need improving. And they often don't have time either. But I am excited about this. These are the things that I love to assist business owners with, the things that I watch and measure for them to help them. I own Rev CFO Advisors, and as a financial professional, I work exclusively with small to medium sized business owners. And I do one thing well, and that's I transform businesses into money making machines. And I'm passionate about this. I love to help owners, to help them be successful, to help them get back that control of both time and money in their lives and in their businesses. So if you could use help on transforming your business into a money making machine, let's get on a right fit call. We'll get on a 30-minute Zoom call. I can learn more about your business and your goals. You can learn more about me and ensure that I'm a right fit to help you and to partner with you in transforming your business. If so, then I'll share with you exactly what I do, how I do it, what my fee is, and then you decide if this is right for you. So if you want to schedule a call, the link is in the chat. It's also here on the screen, and it'll be included in the email that I send out following this presentation. I would love to talk with you more about your business, your goals, and see how you can transform your business into a money-making machine. So again, here's the links to schedule a call with me, the link to download the 16 parts of your business. And now I want to hear from you guys. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. I would love to answer your questions. So let's see, do we have any questions? Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I don't see any questions. I will give you my email that I'll be sending out. So if you have a specific question about your business or something you want to talk more about, feel free to send it via email as well. Well, it looks like we do have a question here. We'll put it up on the screen. So, okay, Taylor's asked, the human equation is the hardest part of running a business. Employees and fellow business partners impact each of these drivers you spoke of. How does that affect the way we should look at fine tuning our machine? Yeah, that's a great question because, yeah, things are messy. It's not a perfect formula. All of those drivers involve other people. And that's where, as you focus on specific drivers in your business, you drill down into the process behind it. And the process inevitably includes people. So the example I gave about the HVAC company not being able to convert the leads to sales. Well, then you need to drill down into, in that situation, you need to drill down into your sales process. And perhaps that will uncover maybe our salespeople aren't trained in how to close the sale. Maybe we don't have a sufficient number of salespeople, and so they're overwhelmed and they're not managing the process well, not getting back to people timely. Maybe it's a problem with the tools, and our salespeople are just writing on post-it notes as they're answering the phone. And we actually need a CRM. We actually need a system to intake and follow these leads and make sure someone's following up with them so that our salespeople don't feel frazzled and they know they have the time to nurture those relationships and make that sale. So in every step of the way, every one of these drivers involves people to a certain extent. And you've got to focus on fixing that driver. And that may be upskilling folks and maybe getting the right people in the right seat on the bus on your team, and or training people in a different way, or hiring someone to fill a gap that you have in your process and a need that you have on your team. So yeah, great question, Taylor. People are involved in every stage of these drivers, and it's a matter of addressing the process behind it and ultimately the needs of the people that are running that process. Okay, let's see. Taylor also says, I know you mentioned in cash flow, days inventory outstanding. How does that apply to companies that are primarily service-based with no inventory? Yeah, great question, Taylor. Um, so that driver in particular, it doesn't necessarily apply to service industry. So if you don't have inventory, then you're not fronting the cost for your service. But when you think about it, you may have certain things that you want to make sure you're capturing in your cost of sales. So if you're a service-based business, and say you are a marketing company, and you're you're paying for the subscription to run someone's website. Well, you want to make sure you're actually charging enough for that subscription and passing it through to your customer, as well as the service that you're providing on top of that of monitoring, designing, redesigning their website. So that all goes into your cost of sales, but you want to make sure that that's all being captured. But inventory outstanding is not specifically something that a service-based business is tracking. So let's see. Elsa said, there are so many drivers to focus on. Which do I work on first? Yeah, great question, Elsa. The drivers you need to look at first are really the ones that are going to have the biggest financial impact. As a CFO advisor, I work with my clients on this all the time. We're actually, every month that we're meeting, I'm looking at every one of these drivers. And I often do a what if analysis, that if I just change this one driver, how big of an impact would that have on cash flow? If I change this driver, how big of an impact would that have on cash flow? So I'm looking for, in that what if analysis, I'm looking for which one is the most acute and is going to have the biggest impact in improving cash flow. So that's where you may need a CFO advisor like myself to help you diagnose the one that's going to be most impactful. While all of them may be stressing, you can't fix it all at once. So don't think about fixing all 16 drivers. Focus on the one that's going to have the biggest impact immediately. Work on that, get it fixed, then go on to the next one. Let's see. Oh, Shelly asked the same question. So many drivers to focus on. Which should I focus on first? So I hope that answered your question, Shelly and Elsa. And let's see. Anyone else have a question? Yeah, I don't see any other questions here. But thank you everyone for joining me. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you being here. I hope you all took something away that you could take back to your business to improve your money-making machine. And look for that follow-up email from me, and reach out if you have further questions. So thank you everyone, and have an awesome day.